The Jacob and Seb Christmas special, and we're back.
So,
Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas. It's been a while.
Thought we'd treat you all to a little Christmas special. Serenade you all with our lovely voices
Lovely evening voices.
and our
voice breaks.
unconditional rambling.
Oh, it's been ridiculous. Just to clue everyone in, I think we've talked for a solid hour and we haven't actually recorded any of it. So we've been planning stuff, but we like things to be natural, so when we do talk, we'd like you to be the first to hear it.
But of course, amongst all the rambling, we want to get some value, so we don't want to we don't want to keep all of our rambling in here. So
for you to take home, you're probably already at home. So,
but being Christmas, we figured it'd be a nice time to reflect, understand on what we've sort of learnt. 2020's been a long year.
It has.
It's been a good year, actually.
It was.
It's been depending how you look at it, you know what I mean?
Look, even with all its ups and downs, I think there's a lot of lessons to be learnt.
I think we should insert a trigger warning here. Everything that we're going to speak of is from our experience. We know that there's people who had a worse year,
Yes.
who had a better year.
Yeah.
But obviously, when I say good, that's obviously contextual to my year.
And my year.
So, please, we know that people were definitely well worse off.
Yeah.
But we didn't experience that. So, we're just going to have to talk from our experience, and that's as much as we can do. So, please, keep the comments to yourself.
Yes. This is only our opinion. It's not. We're not saying, everyone shouldn't be looking, down in the dumps because of the year that we've had. There have definitely been people that have done it tough. People that are still doing it tough, especially closer to Christmas. In other states where we are, it's not so bad at the moment.
Plus, if you listen to our previous podcast, you know that we're big advocates for looking at the silver lining and finding the positive message amongst everything. Because, as I like to say, experience is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you respond to it, or your outlook on it.
That's a beautiful message.
So, like I said, two people can look at the same experience in a completely different way. So, but on that note, I think, Jacob, we can talk about our main takeaways from this year, because it's been a big year of growth for me personally.
Well, yeah, no, I definitely agree, and I feel like we've spent a lot of time at home, especially from March to, I guess, technically early October, and I realised there's a lot of things you can do at home, whereas I think especially our generation, we're so used to going out and doing things, which, don't get me wrong, I still absolutely love, but I started getting back into a lot of things that I felt like I'd never thought I'd say this, but I got bored of playing video games.
Wow.
I know.
I didn't actually think that happened.
No, I got bored of it. And I still had study to do, obviously, but even after I finished my study, I wasn't on my computer as much. I was going for walks more too. And I found myself reading books again, which I haven't done in a while, like a long time, since at least 3 or 4 years.
Do you know what I noticed, in those few examples, though? It almost felt like you started to enjoy the slower activities. Because I feel like computer games in particular are very fast. Like the dopamine...
absolutely.
It's released very quickly.
Don't get me started on a dopamine.
It's released very quickly, whereas it seems like you've almost started to enjoy the slower things in life and realize...
Oh, seriously, I felt like I've only got 1 year older, but I feel so many more years older than I actually am, which is very, very strange. And sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't.
Why don't you like it, though?
I feel like just psychologically, I think it just messes with me a little bit. It's like you should be, doing these things, not these things. But then I realized that these are the things that I actually enjoy.
Are you talking about like, wait?
It's like I should
don't enjoy reading books.
No, I do enjoy reading books.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, if you should be, going out and doing stuff. But I've legitimately said no to going out because I was finishing my book, which is sad. But I wanted to read the book, and it wasn't even that it was like that adult of a book. It was. You remember like the Percy Jackson series?
No, not familiar with it. I think I've seen the trailers back in like
the movies,
2016.
Yeah. The movies and that, yeah. But there's a series of books as well. So I finished those, and I thought that I heard that his artist's name is Rick Riordan. He's a good storyteller actually. But he came out with another set of books after the Percy Jackson books, called Heroes of Olympus, and I was reading like the first one. And I finished the books while I was at work. And then I literally said, I was like, okay, I'm going to order the next 4 books off eBay. And they arrived within 2 days. And I finished 2 of them already. So I've got another 2 to go. But I was reading the first book and someone said, do you want to go out and do this? And this is like just as we were able to go out again. And I can't believe it, but I actually said, no, I'm reading my book. And people called me crazy. Well, no, only one person called me crazy.
Well, it definitely sounds like maybe your priorities realigned or something, or like
kind of
the time off, the time to yourself made you really reflect or something.
Yeah,
and maybe understand what you want long term. Because
lots of books.
Like I said, sometimes playing video games it seems short term. Almost like sometimes like I can go on for a couple hours and it's just like. I know that I'll just get a nice hit of dopamine, you know what I mean? And just like get off. Whereas when you start to slow down, it feels like your dopamine level sort of reset. And I feel like it brings you back to a natural level, actually, is one thing I'm trying to say. Because I've detoxed from like social media for a long time. So like for me, I feel like I maybe find the more mundane things and find like reading books and like going for walks a lot more dopamine inducing than a regular person.
No,
because I'm not expecting that like fast paced dopamine sort of rush that everyone expects nowadays.
But I think you also did that a lot before COVID as well. Like you were very much exercise and not I was going to say slow orientated, but that's not what I mean. Like you very much, you weren't really ever fast paced, unless it's sports wise, which then again is just pretty much more walking at a faster speed. If you think about it,
it's just walking faster.
It's just actions at a faster speed. But I've also learned, and I'll say this now, because as you know, I've recently started working shift work.
Yeah.
I won't say where, but I work at basically one of the hospitals now. I work up a bit on the wards and work, out the fronts, taking people's temperatures, etc. But often it's shift work, so it's very, it's either an AM shift or a PM shift. Often you'll be asked to like work a double. But I have realised how long a day actually is. And there's some days where I hate working for that amount of time because I'm like, it's such a nice day outside. I don't have to be inside right now. I could be out going for a walk or reading a book.
Yeah, but I think you only understand how long a day is when you step away from that virtual reality that is like technology. Because when you're in a game, you instinctually just lose track of time.
Oh no!
And because time is relative to a sense, of course, and sometimes like a way I put it, like when I go to work, it almost feels like 1 minute, but 1 year at the same time.
Oh,
yeah. And I really like that because obviously time flies when you're having fun, but at the same time you really want to enjoy every moment, every day, because that's all you have. That's all you have. So,
but it's
to like overlook it and just like not cherish every second is.
But
it's
on that topic though, like I've started waking up like at a solid time every single morning. Like even when I sleep in, I'm waking up at like 8 o'clock, which for a lot of people is quite early. And I'll go to bed like I used to go to bed, and I'm saying this like as someone that's studied and someone that used to go out late, come home early. I used to go to bed at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Now I get tired at like 9 or 10 and want to go to sleep. And I send myself to sleep. I don't say, no, I need to, train my body to stay up later. Or, I'm going out late tomorrow night. I'll prepare myself for it. Exactly. I shouldn't be preparing myself by going to bed late. I should be, sleeping and then actually having that good amount of sleep before I wake up at a reasonable time in the morning. And that's actually how I've kind of learnt to get the most out of my day, even if I am working. And most of the time I'm working from, like 6:30 in the morning till like 2:30 or 5 at night. And it's even then I find the day so much more enjoyable because I've woken up that early.
But I feel like it's not even just the fact you're waking up early. I think you're getting more sleep. Because I was watching this really cool docu-series on YouTube by Will Schneider. It's called Happier. I stumbled across it through CoffeeZilla not long ago. Actually, literally this weekend. And there was an interesting analogy that he brought up, which was your brain is almost like a CFO managing a multinational company, managing the finances and balancing the budgets so that the whole organism, as the whole company runs smoothly and efficiently. Yeah. And that analogy was very interesting because he sort of said that like sleep, eating healthy, exercising, that is almost the money you put into your brain, that the budget that your brain is allowed to spend. So like the less money you put in, obviously the less the brain has to spend. So it has to like take it away from somewhere. And usually that comes from your energy reserves. And they even said if you get really low, your brain will almost start killing itself off to save energy. And like that's where you get like neural diseases, because it literally has to start killing neurons from itself.
Yeah.
But like that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like you really get to cherish how long a day is when you are like fully awake and fully like energetic throughout the entire day.
Yeah.
And not like, because I feel like some people coast through the days.
Absolutely.
As if it's like, because the Sadhguru, okay, another person I really like, he said it really well. He said, well, I just lost it. All right.
It's one of those moments where Seb didn't get enough sleep, and his coffee's wearing out.
Well, it is 9 o'clock. It's way past my prime functioning time. But yeah, no. What he said was, because like I said, everyone's like coasting through life almost as they're trying to reach the end goal.
Yeah.
And he's like, you if you want to reach the end goal, you can. It's a bit like a bit of a dark, statement, because you know what the end goal is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you're really that like persistent of just coasting through life and reaching the end goal, he's like the door's always open.
Yeah. No, I agree with it.
Because like I said, life is the only thing you have, right?
But in terms of like, I feel like I actually coast through the day better. And on the topic of more sleep and like eating right as well, like I've found that, there's some days where I eat terribly, and I know that I do. I'd have like so normal calories is like 2.2 above, depending on
like
your weight range.
2.2k.
Yeah, 2.2k calories, right? There's some days where I was eating like 4k calories, and I just felt shit the next day because I knew that my body was not going to be handling that right. But there's days where I eat less, or like the exact amount of food, the best food that I could be eating. I was getting the right sleep. I was drinking, 3 liters of water. And I felt so much better that next day at work. And time went so much faster. But I was still enjoying myself. And as you said, it kind of felt like, 1 minute was 1 year. But it was only a minute. And I still had so much to do in that amount of time. And even though everything did go very, very quickly, I enjoyed the entire day. And it was at work, dealing with, difficult people, stressful situations, and, standing on my feet for 8 hours a day. And I still enjoyed it. Whereas, there's days that I have now that it's like, I ate terribly that day before. And now I feel crap today.
And it gives you like a worse outlook.
It gives me a worse outlook on the job. But I know that I love the job because, it's especially working inside a hospital during, this time, this pandemic, I feel like I've got a lot of insight, into actually how things operate. And people are like, oh, it's this and this. And I kind of know that it's what they're talking about, but it's so much more. Like, there's so much more going on behind the scenes that you don't realise. Like, there's, people are like, oh, yeah, those healthcare workers, those nurses, those doctors, it's everyone. It's not just, people are hating on the police, people are doing all of this stuff. And it kind of made me sad, honestly, because I knew that being in that situation, there's certain times where I'm not allowed to let people enter the hospital because, we've got so many things going on. And I'll get yelled at for it. But people don't understand that I'm not doing it out of spite. I'm not doing it just because I don't like the look of you. I'm not going to let you enter. And, you have to walk around the building. No, I'm doing it for a reason because not to say, oh, I'm the one saving everyone. Not at all. It's everyone needs to work together to actually, get past this stage. And while it is almost over, we're almost out of like everything.
It definitely has been a test of civilization.
Oh, yeah.
Like the fabrics of it and like how strong it actually is. Because if you think about it, like I was going to go back to another thing, but if you just think about how crazy, like we're a set like a nearly 8 billion strong civilization right now.
Yep.
And to keep that functioning in an orderly manner is kind of absurd. The fact that it actually works. It's almost like the economy, like or even the internet. If you think about any of those infrastructures and organisms, it almost could completely break at like a hairpin of like just something minute breaking.
Oh, no.
That's how fragile they are.
Yeah.
But they function. It's crazy. But I was going to say on the topic of diet, because you're talking about how like you feel better eating. And now you said 4,000 calories, and I don't think the calories make too much of a difference because personally, I have got my maintenance up to about 4K. So like for me, I do about 3.5.
I was talking
4K some days.
I was talking like bad food.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't good food.
Because now I think this is a good experiment for anyone, especially you, Jacob. I think you can do this one. I think it helps to be in a higher state, if you get what I mean. But just order something. I did this actually. I kind of created this myself. I didn't hear it from anywhere. The experiment almost happened, or like in retrospect when I reflected upon what I just did, it almost made me realize.
I was confused by what you just said, but somehow all of it made sense. Continue.
It made sense, yeah. And to me, it made sense to me because I experienced it.
Yeah.
But so what I did was I ordered a Domino's pizza, and you know me, I very rarely order.
You do not like
any
that kind
fast
of
food. I really
you don't like that fast food.
Like I don't mind pizza actually. It's one of my more delighted takeaways, or like foods of choice if I have to. But Domino's, oh my god, it's definitely monopolized and it's disgusting. But the thing is, not even the taste. What I did was, I just ate it, right? And in the movies and stuff, they really glorify having pizza and just watching stuff and watching like Netflix. It's like glorified. And I very rarely do it, and I wanted to try it, so I did. And I was, like I mentioned, in a bit of a higher state, and I took a bite of this pizza, and the energy that was flowing through my body was so negative. I can't even it didn't feel like I was eating food. It felt like I was eating energy. Okay, it sounds a bit woo-woo, but just hear me on this. Every bite, I couldn't even finish the pizza. I got like a couple slices in, and I just felt my body worsening every bite. So I just stopped. I put it aside. I was like, it's probably just better I stop.
So it's kind of like you're saying you weren't really eating it. You weren't getting really any nutrition out of it. It was just
no, I was getting nutrition, but like I could obviously there was like slight macronutrient, but it's not even like. It was more like. Food is just energy at the end of the day.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
So like, I was eating it and the energy was just negative. I felt myself like getting, like obviously you eat energy to like be more productive.
Yeah.
I was getting less productive. But then the next time, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do healthy food. So I was like, I'm gonna make a massive fruit salad, and I'm gonna see what happens.
How big was this fruit salad?
It was a big bowl. Couple mangoes, couple punnets of strawberries, bit of blueberries. Like I want a couple plums. I went pretty big.
Any bananas? Pears?
No bananas. But this was just an experiment. Just in my head, I was like, okay, if that's what happened when I had pizza, what's gonna happen when I have this? And every bite, it was, you know that scene in Ratatouille when he takes a bite of the strawberry and like those like colorful lights appear in his head.
Yes, I do.
That is exactly what was happening, and every bite was like magical. I almost felt like I was reaching a higher state. Like the energy was so positive, and I think that is the crazy thing about food. It's not even the calories. It's like it was so eye opening that I really haven't done any fast food since.
But that's the crazy thing about food, because if food, we want to enjoy food. That's the purpose of us eating it. Sometimes it's not just for the nutritional value; it's to actually enjoy the taste of it.
It is an experience.
Which is why fast food, and I'm sure me and plenty of others are guilty of having fast food way too often, or more than we should be anyway. But the reason it's so addictive is because it's got those addictive sugars, etc., etc. But if we actually want to enjoy the food that we're actually having, the point is to actually have good food, because we know what's in it. We know that it tastes good. There's plenty of good food. Like, I don't specifically like all the time, like, lettuce and spinach and, greens, but I'll happily have, peas, beans. I'll have all of those, and there's definitely foods that I won't eat. Like, for example, I'm not the biggest fan of mushrooms. I'll still eat them, but that's not a food that I like. That's the good thing about restaurants, is that you can actually go out and you can actually pick a food that you like. And a lot of the time, the foods that we're picking them not because of their nutritional value, but because they taste good.
Yeah, well, at some point in history, scientists and,
astronomers.
The people that, well, not astronomers, but the people who work for those fast food companies, they realize that our body, like our brains in particular, react quite well to the combination of sugar and fat. Yeah. That's why we love cakes. Cakes and sweets are all literally just fat and sugar. Yes. There's literally no other ingredients, fat and sugar. But it is the worst thing for our brains. But the thing is, our brains are almost, they can't, they don't, it's not aware. It's like, it's weird, because did
you just have a bunch of sugar and fat?
Consciously, that you're not supposed to, but for some reason when you eat it, your brain thinks it's good. Or like it really, obviously, you get like an insulin spike, but I just thought it was very interesting. And like when you touched on diet, I think it's definitely, obviously you want to maintain your calories, but if you just start to eat just foods that come naturally, even if it's like meats, like I'm not even saying go vegan, like even just as like
definitely not going vegan.
Even if it's like I'm not vegan, I'm not even vegetarian, but just eating stuff that was here on like the planet, that come from Mother Nature.
Not like, fast food, it's processed food, and
processed. That's the kind of word.
But that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of like entertaining food nowadays, and I do love entertaining food. Like your cabana, your dips, your crackers, your all of that. But a lot of that is processed.
It's all sugar.
It's not. It's literally all packed with sugar, and we know that. But like if I get some normal yogurt, and I get some, normal cucumber or something like that, and I try my tzatziki myself, it has probably, I'm guessing, maybe 1/4 of the calories than one that you would buy at the store.
Mm-hmm.
And probably twice the nutritional value as well. It doesn't have all that sugar. The reason that all these foods are actually packed with it is because we as a civilization require, that food. And whether or not we have enough money or not to buy that stuff, we do still need food to survive. And I think producers particularly, have got it in their head that people will buy something that they enjoy eating.
No, producers have programmed you into like they've programmed your brain, like literally.
No, I absolutely.
Even like social media.
With social media, but also what's in the food too. Yeah. Food has tons of additives in it, and not all of the additives are bad. Some additives are good; they're there for a reason, and that's why we have fluorine in our toothpaste now. Because we actually what was it like something like 93% of Australians or something weren't getting enough fluorine in our diets, which is like that fluorine's for like teeth, bones, everything, and we were all deficient, so they put it in our water supply. That's a good additive, but if you're talking like I don't know. I can't even say this word anymore, and I know what it is because I had to study it. Phenylalanine. Mm-hmm. That's it.
I wouldn't know if you're wrong or right. So.
No, people can look it up. Phenylalanine. It's basically like an additive that you put in almost like everything nowadays. It's pretty much in all processed foods, all drinks, especially no sugar drinks. So basically, like if you're there's actually a disorder nowadays that the cases are actually getting increasingly higher because it's in so many foods that the body's basically turning it away, saying no, I don't want it anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's a genetic condition, but there's research into how the processed foods that we're actually eating daily, all of the ones that don't have any like sugar, like natural sugar, even if they are processed, they all have the phenylalanine. It's a very difficult word to say, seriously. Like, it's a tongue twister for me.
I'm not even going to try.
And it's worse than sugar. Like, it's terrible for the body.
But this is only in processed food, you're saying?
In processed food. So, it's not normally... It's technically... It's an amino acid, so it's found in almost everything. But there's just higher quantities in processed food, and it is bad for the body. Sugar's good for the body in some way. Like... a certain amount of glucose, a certain amount of fructose each day.
I was going to say fructose, yeah.
Fructose is good, but you can have too much fructose. You can have too much of anything. Too much of anything is a bad thing. We know this already. I've been talking for a while.
Because even too much of coffee can be bad.
No.
I was wondering how we're going to transition. But
segue into that. No, that was a good segue. I enjoyed that. That was actually next on our list to talk about because
Jacob just felt like coffee was a fun topic, and I like talking about coffee because I have very mixed opinions about it.
This man was hyper about half an hour
ago. I love the taste of coffee. Okay, don't get me wrong. If I just get a long black and I sip on it, and I love the taste, but I don't like my body depending on caffeine. I really don't.
See, I don't think mine depends on caffeine anymore, but I think. Because I've had coffee for so long, I've been having coffee since I was probably 19, I reckon. I wasn't actually drinking it. Didn't drink it through year 12, didn't drink it through year 11, any of that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I'm so used to coffee now that I could have a coffee now and still go to sleep. I just don't think it...
I think that's a trick, though, because you're a scientist, you're a biomechanic. I feel like you should know this. Even though you're asleep, or you're technically asleep, the caffeine is still... stimulating your brain, which means you're technically not getting a proper rest. Because even I know I had just had coffee before. It was 8 p.m.
Yeah.
I only did it because of the podcast. But I know that even though I'm going to go to sleep now...
Got to keep you hyper for that podcast.
Even though I know I'm going to sleep now, it's not going to be the same quality of sleep because my brain is still going to be sort of basically stimulated by that caffeine.
Oh, absolutely. But I think...
Because the half-life is, 6 hours or something? 8 hours?
For coffee?
Yeah.
I'm guessing so. I don't know if I'd use the term half-life for it, but it does make sense what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think it's especially with sleep cycles. I haven't learned much about sleep cycles, but from what I know, you've got, what is it, REM sleep? REM sleep.
Yeah.
Which is basically before you enter your deep sleep. Or I think so. Anyway, if I'm wrong, someone correct me, message me or something like that. But I'm fairly certain, the first stage of when you sleep is your rapid eye movements, which is what REM stands for. And your brain's not quite asleep. It's very still agitated. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you had coffee, you'd probably have longer lasting REM cycles.
Yeah, so you're saying you have less of the deep sleep.
Yes, so you'd have less deep sleep, which
but that's when most of the magic happens, really.
Yeah, your brain gets some rest. Everyone's brain needs rest. Technically, we should be getting sleep every night. Not many people do, to be honest. I know there's a lot of people, and I'm guilty of it probably once or twice. Not too much sleep per day. But I think it's actually unhealthy for us to get too much sleep as well.
No, it's definitely a balance.
Because you kind of need. I think For
like
people
said,
our
in
age,
moderation.
yeah, exactly. But people our age, I think, are only supposed to have about 7 to 8 hours of sleep maximum. We're not actually supposed to have more than that because then our body's kind of, I'm not even trying to bother explaining that because I've got no clue. But I'm fairly certain that it is quite unhealthy to have too much and too little sleep.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And coffee, coffee doesn't help that. I feel like, there's that whole caffeine definitely keeps you awake. It does, to a certain degree, but I feel like if you're used to having caffeine, it's kind of
because it's similar to dopamine.
Yes.
Like when you don't get it from like that fast paced, like sort of stimulus you usually get from social media and technology, the real world can sometimes seem lackluster, and caffeine's the same.
Well, it acts on the same type of receptors.
Yeah, it raises your main sort of your base level of energy.
Yeah.
So that you become dependent on it because you're just not as energetic without it.
No.
But for me, it's almost I do it like once a week. You know what I mean? Otherwise, other times I drink decaf because I still, like I said, I love the taste. So I love decaf.
I feel like we're like not advocating coffee right now. We're definitely advocating coffee. Coffee's great.
I'm not advocating. I'm advocating decaf.
You're advocating the taste of coffee.
If you like
I'm an advocate for coffee, but you shouldn't have more than one a day.
I'd say once a week.
You have coffee once a week.
Proper caffeine, like once a week.
That's because you're not.
Or you do like 2 days on, 2 days off.
Mind you,
3 days on, 3 days off.
Mind you, ladies and gentlemen, I remind you that this man has 1 cup of coffee and he's bouncing off the walls for 2 hours. Whereas me, I have a cup of coffee. I might have, slightly higher voice for the next couple of minutes, and then I'm done.
Yeah, but that's because you at this point you probably need more than 1 cup of coffee just to like get to the same elevated energy level that I'm at.
But I don't have it for the caffeine. I have it because it tastes good. I absolutely agree with you. Coffee tastes lovely.
Oh, it's amazing.
I just made. We had a coffee machine in the other room, and I just made. I don't even know where the beans are from. I think they're from. Is it?
You said Brazil, I believe.
I think they're Brazilian or Arabic. They're one of the two. Anyway.
Arabic.
It sounds very fancy. I haven't even become a connoisseur of coffee beans yet, but I'd like to. It sounds very interesting.
Oh, 100%.
Like wines. I'd like to learn more about wine too.
I wanted a proper coffee tasting, and there's more levels to coffee than I ever thought.
How did you go with that coffee tasting? Because you would have had so much caffeine.
No, it was very small doses.
Okay.
It was like a vino tasting. You know what I mean? Like you just like sniff it and you like
tiny
sip it. Yeah. It's like a little bit, but you get the. These are like coffees you go to like the proper roasteries and you pay like $100 for like 100 grams. You know what I mean? These are like single origin from one farm from one family out in like the Himalayas or something. Even that's probably not where you'd make coffee.
China.
But like that's what I'm saying. Like there's different levels.
Yeah.
And,
the
stuff you buy from Coles that like mixed blend is just like the most basic stuff. But personally, what I did learn from that coffee tasting is I actually prefer a mixed blend.
You do.
The other one's a little bit too fruity for my liking.
Are we talking about wine?
No, coffee.
Because it just sounds like you're talking. It sounds like you're talking about wine.
Coffee's
coffee and wine are the same thing.
Oh, it's both made from a fruit. Some taste naturally more nutty, and some taste naturally more fruity. Like I would bet, like I'd be safe to say that the hazelnut coffees you get from Coles probably have artificial hazelnut flavoring.
Very much so.
But if you go to a proper roastery, you can actually get naturally flavored because of each like coffee fruit naturally has a different flavor. But that's a different topic.
Have we turned into a coffee podcast?
We're not advocates for coffee, Jake.
We're just
talking about
back on the conversation because I said I was making the coffee, but I actually used almond milk instead of milk.
Okay.
And I actually love the taste of almond milk coffee. It is great. It tastes way better than milk coffee does. Don't get it from because I've had it from Macca's a few times, which, the coffee from Macca's I'll get in the morning because, I'm going to work and I don't want to wake everyone up in the house with a grinder. But the one at home tastes awesome. Like if you get, I think the temperature on the machine is set to 63 degrees. We're about to get into some deep coffee making stuff right now. So maybe for a minute.
Get some pen and paper.
Don't stress it out, Sebastian, okay? I'm not advocating coffee. I'm advocating the way that I make it.
I'm not stressing.
There's a difference. So it's thinly ground coffee. So it's I think the setting's on like a 21 or a 22. I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. And so, you grind it, and then you put it on 63 degrees. You warm the milk up to about 63 degrees. You don't want boiling milk. That's terrible. It burns. You don't want that. Anything above 80 tastes terrible. I've tested it, believe me.
Okay.
Trial and error. It's the best thing in the world. Do it. Except if it's something to do with fire. Don't trial and error that. It's not good.
Yeah, you don't need to use fire.
Well, you can to heat up milk, but don't trial with fire. Which is actually kind of a saying. Don't trial with fire. It's a bad thing to do.
Sticker.
Yeah, I think it is. I want to buy one.
We should start a bump. I think we come up with so many bumper sticker worthy quotes that we need to start a bumper sticker company. Because bumper stickers are so dead right now. If you think about it.
Oh, they are.
We could bring them back.
I want to bring
2021.
them back. I don't even think I have one on my car yet. I don't think you do either.
No, I don't. But speaking of 2021, goals, I think, fresh year. I don't really like looking at a fresh year. It's just,
it's another year.
Even birthdays, it's just a day, right? But I'm just saying,
yeah.
I feel like 2021 is going to be a bit more of a smooth year. I think a lot of the main turbulence is over. I think we're going to be back to normal. But I was going to talk about goals even in the sense that when COVID was like at its peak and everyone had like days where they weren't doing much or they were at home, I feel like goals really helped sort of keep that routine.
Yeah. No, agreed. But it was very with.
And I think moving into 2021, I think goals are always. I don't know.
Goals are
good.
I feel
like I'm being juxtaposed here because I feel like sometimes I don't advocate for goals, but sometimes I do.
No, but I think.
What's your opinion?
It's good to have what I've learnt. Again, obviously, there's lots of people that study along with me, but when you go to uni, there's like a unit you have to take. It's like, what are your goals for your future? What are your goals for 1 year from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, and 10 years from now?
Yeah.
I find it very difficult to plan. Actually, I think I find it harder to plan earlier than I do long term. I think long term is probably easier to plan for because you can say, I want to be here in 10 years. I want to be there in 5 years. Even 2 years is pretty, I want to be either studying this or I want to have this in 2 years. That's still a goal, whether or not you need whether or not you need that item or you need that position. You want that position. That's something to strive for. I think that's
See, I think I'm an advocate for making goals for the day or even tomorrow, but I almost feel like that's enough. Like, I feel like having vague goals for the future because, like, even if I just think as an example for myself, I did have goals for next year, but I think I told you this. They literally changed. My entire goals, my entire life, not life, I feel like it's just a different path to get to kind of where I want to go. So maybe I do have life goals, but my entire trajectory and how I got there literally changed one phone call. Because I was very happily self-employed, you know what I mean? And
I've heard this story.
And my past employer from a year and a half ago gave me a call as an emergency fill-in. And I agreed because, especially when you're doing e-commerce, there's definitely a lot of downtime. So I thought it'd be a nice way to, especially can also be lonely. So I thought it would be a nice way to catch up with the lads.
It sounds so sad.
Catch up. Definitely, being self-employed always has. The downs are very low, but I feel like the ups you can't get from being regularly employed, if that makes sense. So like you definitely have way lower lows, but way higher highs. But yeah, I picked up the phone, and it was my past employer, and he asked if I can fill in for the week. And I said yeah, because at the time it was just 1 week, and I was like, you know what? Get some social interaction with my past co-workers. And now, I've been there for a whole month. Because I just agreed to stay for till the end of the year, because, Christmas is here. I figured, what's one extra month, right? And now I have a new position there in sales. And now, because of Chromogen and talking with the big boss. I've even applied for university, which was definitely off the table.
Which was
for a long time.
Crazy because I know you and you're not like university type. You don't like that kind of. You're very into personal learning. You don't really like the university is very strictly taught.
I feel like most of it's just the experience of it and like just the paper at the end. But like, did I expect to be doing uni and having a full-time or like a part-time position next year? No way.
Mind you, this is the same employer that I also worked for, and I think this all started with a singular Snapchat.
Yeah, exactly.
This started with one Snapchat, and I said, "Does anyone want a full-time position in a warehouse?" Seb replied. I think Seb and I worked there for about how long together?
Well, I was there for a year and a half, like full-time, basically. And you came, at that time, back then, you were coming at least, like, once a week.
Yeah, at least. Now, not so much. Now I'm a little bit less frequent.
But maybe the moral of the story is to just say yes.
Yes.
Because Yes Man.
It's a good movie.
Like, I think I've definitely become more open to saying yes. Because you never know what lies behind that door.
No.
And of course it may not. And like I'm just saying, say yes to smart things, people. If somebody asks you to do something stupid, that's vividly stupid. Just don't say yes. I'm just saying when an opportunity arises for a new job, and maybe you're not happy with the one, or maybe you just want a new experience, just say yes. You never know where it goes. You really don't.
I feel like if someone asked me to like I love, one day I've always dreamed of like someone asking me, "Yo, do you want to like drive that way tomorrow? Or do you want to do you want to go to like Sydney for 2 days?" Not right now. I don't want to go to Sydney right now. But, if someone asks me that in the future, chances are I will say yes. Because I want that to happen. I don't know what's going to happen on the trip. I don't care who it is that asks me. I'll go with them. Or actually, it depends who it is. But I'll go with them still. And, whether or not it comes to a job or, whether or not I want to study something in the future or I want to, go for a drive, eat something. Unless it's something poisonous. Don't eat something poisonous. It's a bad idea. Bad idea. Or coffee. Too much. Don't say yes to coffee or...
Be conscious is all I'm saying. Be conscious about how much coffee you drink. That's the moral message.
That's the takeaway from this podcast.
Be conscious about
coffee conscious.
Coffee you drink. Or caffeine, because there's plenty of other things that give you caffeine.
Drinks. It's pretty much drinks. I can't think of many other things that give you caffeine other than caffeine pills.
Yeah. Okay, but maybe what I'm trying to say, actually, because I just had this thought. Because talking about goals. And I think actually maybe it is okay to have long-term goals. Like I said, I still think that I'm going to the same place, just through a different route. I think what I'm trying to say is don't let your goals be very strict. You need to have flexibility in life.
I think you need to have an end goal. You don't need to have goals leading up to something. Like, I 100% need to do this before I do that. You might not necessarily need to do that before you do that. Mm. That's not how an end goal should work. As long as a goal, like, for example, a goal in sports, as long as you get the goal, it doesn't matter how you did it.
Do it for the highlights.
It doesn't matter how you got that goal.
Yes.
You got the goal.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
There's no, you might get a foul, or you might have some some issues along the way. This is a really good. I came up with this in the spot, by the way.
I like this.
I don't know where this came from, but you get the point.
Keep going.
It's you can get a red card, a yellow card. That's soccer for you.
Get a suspension.
Yeah, a suspension.
Get ejected.
Tech foul. Anything, and
get an injury.
I mean, that just happens normally, to be fair. But you get the point. It's very... You don't actually need to... There's a roundabout way to everything. Doesn't matter. Especially to all the... And I know all the VCE students this year have had it tough. Please, pretty please, take your ATARs seriously, but don't take them seriously. You can get anywhere you want to be. It's not like everything's the end of the world.
Life is not serious.
No, it's not.
You've probably heard that on the podcast before, but life is not serious.
You should be having fun. Learning's a great thing.
Responsibly have fun.
Exactly. I think, to be fair, in terms of studying, I think learning is one of the funnest things I could possibly do because I'm into that, and obviously you're very much into learning as well. But
I love it.
There is two different ways of learning that we've done. Like, because you've never been to university before, whereas that's pretty much all I've done. I've done 17 years of straight study.
Yeah, formal education.
That's very much, it's, as you said, very formal education. Whereas something that you've done is it's personal. You know, it's that casual education, but you're in a particular industry where your kind of education is priceless because you've got. I feel like you would definitely have, and for people that are listening, ever let
this far. Congratulations.
Congrats, by the way, because we often go on rants. Like I think
at this point it's like very therapeutic. I think it is 9:00 on a Monday evening, and I think at this point we're just sort of vibing with each other. We don't know how long it's going to go. We kind of have like 2 more main talking points.
That's about it, really. But I feel like we've gone back to coffee about 5 times in other talking points.
We've definitely looped to all the other ones, but it's good.
Yeah. No, but it's good. I mean, goals shouldn't be linear. They shouldn't be. They're not meant to be linear, I don't think. I mean, when you draw like a line of goals, you know how teachers ask you like, what are you going to do to get that goal? What do you have to do to get that goal? There are 20 different ways to reach your objective. Like it's not like in, you know, for example, any video game lovers out there, you know, you've got to do something and the game makes you do it a certain way. Real life is not supposed to be like that. That's not how things are supposed to be.
Because life is a lot more dynamic.
It is. It's ever changing.
And it all comes down to that whole like idea of the end goal. Like it's good to have a goal, but at the end of the day, life is just a journey, right?
It is.
So
life is a highway.
I'd almost argue that if you can get to the same end point or like to your same quote unquote goal, and one takes you 1 year and the other one takes you 3 years, but the 1 year you're really not going to enjoy.
Yeah.
But the other one, the 3 years, you're gonna be in a state of ecstasy for like the whole time. I would almost argue you take that 3-year route. It's going to take you longer, but you're going to enjoy the process.
No,
and at the end of the day, you're going to reach your goal, and you're going to have another goal anyway. And if you're just chasing that goal after goal after goal and choosing the shortest, most painful route, then you're not really living, I don't think. Because I always have this argument that being alive and living are 2 different things.
Yeah. And I think there was one of my TV shows that I'm watching currently, there was a line, and they said, what was it? Life without love isn't really living. And I think, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be love in that picture. Like, obviously, you know, loving family, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend, partner, whatever it is. But
loving is also just a state of mind.
That's everything. Like, there isn't really too much to be. You can be alive but not living. There is such a thing, and I think, you know, there's people that, you know, obviously people in hardship, you know, they're absolutely living life. You'd be surprised, like, how up-spirited people are, even though that they are going through hard times. And it's not because they know exactly what they're going through, but they look at things completely differently to how we do. Because, you know, we've been brought up in a culture where we think it's not okay to be that way, which is so strange to me because, you know, I've done not particularly, like, there's many people that have done, you know, that do like charity work or, you know, they research into these things, and it's like that kind of stuff is, you know, try something new. Don't necessarily, again, we've mentioned end goal probably like 15 times by now, but try something new, you know, play a different sport, do some charity work. Charity work's great, by the way. Advocate it 100%.
It is. It's good for the soul.
It is. You know, try some different food. You know, I've said that I've hated food, or hated certain food, but I'll still try that food. Like, number of different ways. You know, try meeting new people. That's always a good thing. People are very apprehensive to meet new people, and I find that very strange. I love meeting new people. Meeting new people is great. You don't know what they have to offer.
It's scary, but I think it's scary for both parties. You know what I mean?
Oh, it is.
So, like,
they're more afraid of you than you are of them, okay? Treat everyone like a dangerous animal, and you'll be okay.
And the worst thing they say is no.
That is true, yeah. That is true.
Like, if you do everything in a responsible manner, the worst outcome is just a respectful no, and then you move on. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like this has turned into life lessons, not lessons from 2020.
No, like you said, this year was a very big year of growth.
Oh,
I think
it was.
we both
I don't think
took
it, I think that I had, some of these ideas before 2020, but I think 2020 is kind of one of my favourite words, exacerbated these ideas.
That's a nice word.
It is a very lovely word. Or, kind of emphasise the point, I think, too. It's not, there's, especially when it comes to a routine. I love routines. I stick to them daily. But I think there's people that don't necessarily live by a routine, which is, there's always those guys that are like, traveling the world, like, oh, we don't know what we're going to do. We could go France tomorrow. We could go Sweden. We don't know. We'll get there eventually.
Personally, I like that. You know what I mean?
I can envision you do that.
Yeah. But like I said, there's two different types of people. You prefer routine, I prefer lesser routine.
Yeah. But I think even when you don't have a routine, you still have a routine, don't you?
The core practices are always there. Make your bed in the morning, brush your teeth, have a shower.
You can make your bed at night, it doesn't matter.
Because I always talk about Chromogen, okay? And I love Chromogen. It is a special place. And one that you can only really comprehend when you've been there for a solid amount of time.
Yeah.
I think 6 months is enough to sort of, actually probably even less, 3 months is enough to get a very vivid picture. But one thing I love about that place is no day is ever the same.
No, it's not.
Like,
it's not.
It's funny because the routine tasks are always the same.
Yes.
But the day is never the same.
No.
Which is a very hard thing to accomplish, I think. And it almost reminds me of like every sitcom I've ever watched, like Community and The Office. It's like, or like Parks and Rec. It's a very mundane thing, and they're doing basic day-to-day tasks. But that filler stuff, that
happens. We've joked about this several times. We could probably make a sitcom TV show out of what happens.
I still really want to write one. I do.
It would be so fun.
I really do.
Again, anyone that's looking for something to do, write a sitcom.
Yes.
Do it. We'll watch it. We'll give you honest opinions. We love watching sitcoms. I think we've watched most sitcoms.
But you know what I think? I think the biggest sitcom is Life. You know who told me this? Steve actually brought it up today.
Yeah.
And Steve...
Did you say the word sitcom?
No. He talked about absurdity, which was really strange because Steve doesn't come across maybe sometimes the guy to think about those.
Have we talked about Steve on the podcast?
No. Not as much as we should have.
There's certain people that will know who Steve is.
Steve is
a character.
One of my favourites, to be honest. One of my favourite people alive.
He's a good mate of ours. Seb probably sees him a lot more than I do because he works at the warehouse a bit more. But, we catch up on occasion and it's a good time.
But yeah, he said that life doesn't make sense. And I've always advocated for that. And you know what I think? Because when I was just thinking about this whole sitcom idea, the moment we try to script what happens at Chromogen, it'll never be as funny, it'll never be as real, and it will never be the same as what we experience on a day-to-day.
No.
Because the ultimate reality show is real life. And you just can't script real life. And I think that's what Steve said to me. You can't script these things. And I'm like, you really can't.
Again, and saying you can't script real things, moving back onto our point of goals, again, that's very, very similar to what we were talking about. Because you don't need to script your entire life. Have an end goal, whether you want to, one of my end goals, a couple of years ago was to study medicine. But I've recently decided that I want to do nursing before I get there.
Mm.
So, my plan was to go straight into something like that. But I think, my mum and many people at the hospital have said that some of the best doctors are those that actually had that experience beforehand. And while, I don't want to be, following people, I don't want to be part of that herd, but I know that I'd actually probably enjoy doing that more than something else. I feel like I'd be great at doing that sort of thing. I've also considered, maybe I'd, do teaching or something like that. I love talking to people.
Mm. I've actually really contemplated teaching as well.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear why you'd want to do it though.
I love anyone that knows me, as soon as something's brought up, I immediately try and like jump on it and be like, well, actually, and sometimes it is very annoying, and I'll agree, because I just can't help it. Like I always want to get involved in conversation. I love telling people things, not necessarily in that assertive manner, but I love teaching in that respect. Like I love informing people on things that they don't already know that they find interesting, and like seeing the look on people's faces when they find out something interesting. It's like, I never knew that. I was like, yeah, it's actually really fascinating, and then I'll go into it more, which again annoys a lot of people. So I feel like I'd enjoy that sort of thing. And again, end goals. My end goal is always to get into that sort of medical field, and whether or not that's in a lab or as a doctor or as a nurse, at the moment I really do not care.
I don't think you know this one, Jacob. I've told a few people, but you want to know one of my real big goals in life, like my overarching goals?
Yeah.
It's to do every job possible, excluding the ones that obviously require like several, like being a specialist, like being a doctor or like a lawyer. That require lots of formal education, but like anything that like requires like a basic business degree. That's kind of why I'm doing a business degree as well, which is what I've realized that to reach my overarching goal, which is a very loose goal.
Can you run a coffee cart?
I want to do a lot of things. I want to do everything.
Is it only going to be decaf?
There'll be a decaf coffee place. I like that. And I put that inside my porridge place. But yeah. It's almost like the ultimate life journey goal is to do everything life has to offer. And that's really been my overarching goal. Yeah. And that's why even in the last year, I think I have like 3 jobs, an internship, and like 2 businesses. It's just like, I crave new experiences, and like, I feel like my goal sort of helps push me to do new things and like take those risks, because I just really want to do everything. I just think, especially now with the miracles of modern medicine, we live to 80 years old, and like my granddad's like 70, and he like functions like a well-oiled machine. You know what I mean? So I'm like, sometimes I see like some of the boys who've been in the same place for 15 years, kind of scares me.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like living ground, like in Chromogen, like I said, every day's the same but not the same. But like at the same time, the world is amazing, and it's so big, and it's full of so many.
On that topic,
life makes me tear up sometimes.
You're tearing up right now. I
love life,
but it's interesting that you say that, because I think that the older generation is very used to like working that same job for like a certain amount of years. Like, I know people that have been working in the same industry for like 25 years, 30 years. They've still got that background knowledge, right? But they're working the same job. They don't change positions at all. They might get demoted, promoted, it's kind of that roundabout cycle.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see myself, like, even if I went into like teaching or nursing or, becoming a doctor, I couldn't see myself doing the same thing for 15 years. Yeah. I'd want to change it up. After, like, say you're a mechanic, right? I couldn't imagine doing that for 15 years.
No matter how much... If you're a mechanic, like, just change the thing you fix. Go from, like, cars to bikes to aeroplanes to something different.
Yeah, be an aeronautical engineer. Why not?
Because the only problem I've found with the world we live in now, because we're definitely millennials.
Oh, yes.
Millennials can't stay in
so.
a job for very long, but the world almost rewards specialists rather than generalists, which is why it's always been, I think, since high school. This has sort of been my goal since high school, actually. Like, I don't know if I've shared it with many people, but having an online business has almost been a way to have that reoccurring revenue in the background, to then allow myself to be that generalist and like just do
whatever you want,
every job possible. Yeah.
Where I think
does that not sound amazing?
It does sound amazing, but I think that's actually a really good way to distinguish us, because I just realised you're a generalist, and I'm a specialist.
Yeah.
And well, look, I'm not that specialist. I still do other things besides what I want to do.
No, but you definitely have like.
But I have a more direct.
You got to be pretty special.
That's true.
Like
I'm a special.
You need to know
boy.
Knowledge in a very detailed knowledge in a very specific.
There's definitely people listening to this podcast that are like, this guy is an absolute idiot. What is he doing? And there's there's no doubt in my mind that I want to do that thing. And I've said, I think it's very weird because I've had the idea. I think when I was 6, I wanted to work with animals and I wanted to become a vet, right? And then I think when I got to 9, I wanted to be a doctor. So I've known for 12-ish years what I wanted to do, which is nuts to some people. Like, my sister a year ago didn't know what she wanted to do, and like she's just graduating now. And she's like, "Oh, I wanted to do this a year ago." I was like, "Well, I know what I wanted to do since I was like 9."
Yeah, some people just have that calling, I reckon.
Not many people can actually say that they know what they want to do when they're 9 years old.
I definitely couldn't.
And there's some times where I really doubt. There's sometimes where I very much doubt myself, but
it's a gut feeling.
But weirdly, I don't think I do. Like, it's just like, I don't know if I can, I don't know if I can be bothered doing that thing. But I know that I'll eventually end up doing that thing. Yeah. I'm not worried about, like, say, for example, if I failed, like, a unit at uni or something like that, I would not be worried. Like, I know, I get all this backlash from, like, my parents, like, "Oh, why didn't you study harder?" Obviously, I should have studied harder if I failed a unit. Like, I've never done that ever. I don't think I've ever failed a subject, to be fair. But if I was at that point where I was, doing that, and I'd come to the decision where I don't want to do it anymore because I've just failed something. What if I fail it in the future? I don't get paranoid about that because, that's something I want to do. And I think my final advice for everyone, I think we've still got a few more things to talk about. But
we have one last point.
My final thing, my very big point for some people that are listening right now is if you feel like doing something, do it. Does not matter how you get there. I know I will eventually get to that stage in my life where I want to be there. But, to be fair, I could do anything I wanted to next year. I could work full time. I could take a gap year and travel. I could, whatever I want, I will do. And it's because we live in an era where that stuff is possible. We are millennials, but we should be proud of it. Because, look, there are definitely some issues with our generation, and I'll happily agree with that.
Yeah.
There definitely are, but majority of the time, we are some of the most adventurous, intelligent, and, even experienced people in the world. And I'm not saying experience in terms of life experience, because for some of us, we don't have too much. But
I think we're globally aware.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially with the internet nowadays, the internet is a terrible and a wonderful thing. Like, we can get caught up in the internet, but we've learnt so much from it. Especially books as well. I advocate books. I said this at the start of the podcast. I didn't read books for a while. I've recently just been getting back into them. I had to read books for uni as well. Most of them were like, biology, chemistry books.
Yeah.
But even that sort of stuff, like, I think everyone should learn a little bit of everything. Like, I think everyone should know first aid, to be fair. Everyone should know first aid. That's like if you don't...
Basic survival skills.
Yeah, basic survival skills. Like, even though we live in the 21st century, which means, technically you don't need to know that stuff because there are professionals and specialists that do know that stuff, I think it's insanely handy to have. And it's not like, and I say this with conspiracy nuts out there in mind, it's not like we're heading into a zombie apocalypse, okay? It's very much more of it's something to learn.
Yeah, especially when you take that more adventurous path, you might end up in the forest at some point, and you might fall over and graze or cut yourself. You need to be able to know the basics to, come out of that situation in the best shape.
Yeah. Like, I think everyone should know some like computering skills. I think everyone should know, a bit of biology, bit of chemistry, bit of teaching skills, bit of law as well. I think everyone should know accounting. Accounting is like a skill that, is very much needed in this generation.
Well, when you consider that prosperity is so heavily tied in with money and finances, and accounting is literally the language of finances.
Both of those, yes.
It's a no-brainer. Like, you should know this.
Like, people. That's why I think the argument that schools should teach that stuff. Absolutely, I think there should be. There's actually certain schools in Sweden, and I think that are popping up in America now, they're actually teaching those like basic skills. Like everyone has to do like cooking classes. Everyone has to do like, I'm not talking about like food tech. I know most people did food tech at school. It doesn't actually teach you like food tech didn't really teach you like nutritional values. It was more of a fun thing. Like it was more focused on like, oh, today we're going to cook sushi or we're going to cook like pasta.
There was definitely a good amount of theory involved.
There was like theory, but I think like everyone should kind of like know that stuff. Like it's not so much. I don't think it's something that should be optional to learn, and like everything should be optional to learn. To be fair, but if you're one to be seriously like taking advantage of your life and wanting to know what you're doing in the future, learning all of this background stuff is probably a way to get you started, especially when you're young. Like if you're like I'm not talking about don't teach people advanced math when they're like 12. No one should take advanced math without knowing that they want to do advanced math. Okay, that's like torturing yourself. That's not good. But I think people, especially when they're young, like the first imprint is like, especially when I was like 9 years old, I knew I wanted to do something science related. So that's why I did all science subjects. But like if you're young of age and you don't know what you're doing, which obviously a lot of people that are listening to this right now are probably, our age.
Yeah.
Friends. Yeah, friends, family. But if you don't know what you're doing or, you want to learn something new, study something else, whether or not you're directly interested in it at the moment. Like I don't
know, I would definitely choose something you are interested in.
Yeah.
Because you retain the information so much better.
Definitely interested in.
Yeah.
But like if, for example, if you don't want to learn about, horses, don't learn about horses. But if you want to learn about, like accounting, or actually accounting we've already established is quite important. Yeah. Please learn about accounting.
Just basic.
Please, please learn,
I'm sure most of you guys know, but...
Yeah, but like even if you want to get more depth into it, like I always get curious about stuff. Like I always want to learn more about something. Like if someone says like, "Oh, I did this the other day," I always ask a follow-up question because I'm like, that actually sounds really, really interesting, and I want to know more about it. And there's been several times where I've actually come home and done research on it because I'm like, that might be handy for me to know in the future. I could probably keep it in the back of my head at least.
Yeah. But like even. You brought up the start of that. I don't like when people...
So I just talked for a long time.
Because, no, that's cool. It was very informative. Very good insight. But, like, what I was going to say was, like, people like J. Paul, they, like, really flame high school for not teaching you those life lessons, like, how to get a Lamborghini. You know what I mean? Like, those life lessons. But the one thing I think, like, especially schools nowadays, and I think a lot of them have started to switch their teaching models, they should honestly just be teaching you how to learn.
Yes.
We live in an information age where you can literally find anything at the literally, you don't even have to type it anymore. You just speak it, and they tell you the answer. Like, what's the point of true. Like yes, you need to understand like what basic geography and understand what maps and stuff. But like, there's so many things like you don't need to know because you can literally just ask your phone. Like the one thing you need to learn is how to learn.
Yeah.
And you almost know someone who doesn't know how to learn when their argument is they should have taught us in school. Because if you think your only learning happens at school, then you've already lost it live. I'm sorry. If that's you right now, please start learning. Learn how to learn.
We live in an age where information is everywhere, and I mean everywhere. And
as you just said, within your pocket.
Literally, you can look. I find it probably easier to type it in than to speak.
Oh, I never speak it. I'm just saying it's an option.
It just feels weird.
Yeah, it feels too futuristic.
You talking to a computer, and the computer goes, "We found information on this. Here, take a look at it." No, I'd like to know exactly what I'm looking up. So I type it in, but it's all there in front of you. You get like 1 billion hits for some things, and it's like you could read all of that. It would take a while. You'd probably be sitting there for a long, long time. But you could read all of it, and you could get all the information. And it's like, this is that kind of age where anything is possible for you to learn in an environment where any environmental learning is good for you. And whether or not that's, how you look at this age, we live in a time where phones can do things that phones could never do before. I remember we've been born in a generation where phones, my first phone was touchscreen. I'm 21 years old, and obviously I was kind of born into that generation where that was possible. But, even back when they were touchscreen, Google was around and there was still so many more things happening in the world. Like, we keep expanding knowledge from every single source. Like, we're learning new things about the law, we're learning new things about the universe, astrology, biology, chemistry, learning more things about, like, e-commerce as well, something Seb's into very highly. Learning more things about, the oceans, like, with especially being such the adventurous generation that we are, and even people like Elon Musk who are exploring space right now. Like, that's that kind of, and I think Seb has a bit to say on this as well. But it's very, once we actually do get into space, and I can't believe that it's actually happening. I mean, we're in a time where we can actually consider settling on another planet. I think actually a couple of days ago they just found water on Mars, which was really, really interesting or they found samples of, or evidence of rather, not actual water. But something like that is just crazy to me. I mean, it's that informative age. And, information's everywhere. And, I've repeated that saying probably 20, 30 times now. But most of the time, I think why is a really good question to ask. Why is genuinely a topic of conversation that comes to everyone's minds each day.
Now, I'll be honest, I just went to the bathroom, and I know that...
That's why I was talking random for
and
50...
I know whatever Jacob had to say was gold.
No, it wasn't.
But I noticed that he sort of moved on to the last point, which is why. And I think out of respect for your time, and we don't even know how long it's been gone. It must have been... it's definitely been an hour right now, but...
I think it's been over that. Very much so.
We're not here to, like, preach that we know everything. We're just talking about what we've learnt.
No.
And we've still got 60, 80 odd more years of learning to go. But it always stems back to the same question of why. You know what I mean?
And why are we here? I did say when we were writing this dot point down, Seb suggested why are we alive? And I just said why ?
Yeah.
Because
we just left it, or why?
Because, again, this comes to people asking questions. Well, I think it's more of an idea that people should be asking questions. Especially, talking about Google just then, people should be, like, looking stuff up. Like, you should, in an age where Google is available, for you to Google literally is almost infinite. That's what Google is. Like, it's a ridiculously large number.
Oh, the fact that they foreshadowed their business and knew what they're going to become and call themselves Google is kind of cool.
It's nuts. But that's the idea that you can look up anything anywhere and learn about it is why. And I think one of the main reasons that we do live is to learn. And that sounds very like high school year 10 kind of, speech. But it's true.
We live and we learn.
It's very true, and I can't stress this enough. Please learn. Go do something new. Yeah. Why do it? Because you can.
Literally.
That's my answer to it.
Why? Because you can.
Yeah. I mean, if it's illegal, think about it. Don't do it. But you could do it, but don't do it. Okay. I'm not advocating doing illegal things right now.
Because even when it comes to Googling things, like, you don't, like, this whole comes down to, like, learning how to learn. You don't want to just take everything for black and white. You want to question why. Why is this written the way it is? Particularly with particularly with social media. And I come from a marketing background, so I know that everything that you see almost does have a why behind it. Like, everything is created with a goal in mind, a goal for you in mind, and you might not even know it. But when you put an Instagram post out yourself, you might be thinking that you're a very, pure person, but even subconsciously, you have a why on what you want people to think about that post. You know what I mean? And the emotions you want to convey in that post. So, you know.
I think the point of like, especially with like social media right now, the majority of the time that I do post something, it's just to let people know that I'm alive. Because if I wanted to get, there's people that make like 3-4 Instagram posts a week. I think I've made one in the last year.
Mm.
Like, that's not because I want something out of that Instagram post. It's more so, hey, I'm still here. I'm living. Yeah, and most of the time, I think that people do get the wrong message from. That's why social media is a bad thing in a way. Like,
because I don't want to go too far into social media. I want to kind of wrap this up. I think we've been talking for a while, and don't get me started on social media.
I literally, dude. The reason I was I laughed a few like minutes ago because I was like, my foot was on the desk in front of us, and I pointed down to it with Seb, and it was like ripped, and I don't know how, but like the veins were like popping out, and I had like there was like muscle coming out, and I was like, whoa, that's weird as. But yeah, like that's how tired I am right now. So I feel like this is probably a good time to wrap this up. It wasn't really. It's a Christmas special, but it hasn't really been Christmas themed so much. But I feel like we'll have.
I was just gonna say something that I always ask people is like purpose, and you can sort of interpret purpose as why, right? And Sadhguru puts it best, and he almost sums it up the way I would. He got the question of what is our purpose, right? And the Sadhguru says, isn't it beautiful when you don't have any goals, you can just live?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sorry.
No, I just thought I'd let this sit in. Because I think it ties back nicely to our whole goals, I think. It's like, you can have a goal, but at the end of the day, why are we here? It's to live. And it ties back to Christmas, right? We're here to enjoy life with the people around us. It's not about the gifts. It's not about the quick dopamine rush you get from unwrapping the wrapping paper on the morning of the 25th.
Best believe I can do that quick.
That's a short-lived dopamine. You know what I mean? The real joy of life and the real why of life is
that short-lived dopamine. Yeah.
It's just to enjoy the experiences, enjoy life with the people around you, have a laugh. Don't take everything so seriously.
No, don't, please.
Yeah.
Do it for us. Don't take things seriously.
Don't do it.
Not all the time.
Do it for yourself.
Some things take seriously. Other things, you'll in your right mind, you will know when to take something seriously.
Yeah, it feels right.
Yeah,
it feels right.
You'll know when to take something seriously, and I know some of the, I apologize for this because a lot of the people listening are going to be like, but Jacob, you take things seriously all the time, and I know I do.
You definitely loosened up.
I've loosened up. I've listened
since being together for so long.
Since probably 3 years.
We hang out a lot now.
After high school, yeah. The fact that we see each other, I'd say probably, at the moment anyway, 2 to 3 times a week.
Easily.
Is kind of nuts. That's outside of work.
Mm.
And
it's always fun though.
That's
why we do
it. It is very fun. This is the kind of, again, try something new. We're advocating for good life choices.
Yes. I like that.
That's the point of this podcast right now, is advocating for good life choices from what we've learned in the span of, well, this is all prior knowledge too, but majority of what our life lessons have been in 2020. Yeah.
And what is good for everybody will be different. It's kind of hard, like your intuition will probably tell you what's good, I think. At least for me, I strongly trust my gut. I feel like even like I did have that job earlier in the year and I quit, which to most people almost seems nuts. Like I really liked that job as well, but it just felt right to quit and like believe in myself, believe in my business. And I genuinely don't believe my business would be where it's at if I didn't quit and if I didn't make that good life choice in terms of my own life. Because to most people's lives, that would seem like a bad choice. So it's always contextual. Everything's always contextual. But
Yeah, make the right decision for you, not for other people. I mean, if you're thinking about your family in a moment,
And you know what? Obviously, you'll know if it's a really bad decision. But if you're not sure about the decision, I say just say yes.
Yeah, because if you're not sure about a decision, but you could say yes or no, you saying yes isn't going to lead to any greater consequences than you saying no. Think about that. Because if you know you should say no to something, then say no to it. Because then you know it's a bad decision if you say yes. But if you know it's not really, well, it will matter, but it won't matter in the moment whether you say yes or no. Say yes.
Yeah.
Because that's that kind of forward thinking that us as a generation should be achieving. We shouldn't have to search for answers. I mean, search for answers on Google. I'm talking about life answers. Don't go searching for answers on Google about life answers. Life is about learning from the moment and whether or not that's, going for a walk, you see a bird on the side of the road. You like that bird. It's a good bird.
You like birds.
I love birds. Birds are great, okay? I've had this conversation. Birds don't have arms and they look weird as hell, okay? I love birds, but they look weird. Without their wings out, it's just legs and a body. If the wings weren't there, they'd look really, really weird.
Yeah.
But I love birds. Don't get me wrong. Birds are great. Anyway, I'm very, very tired. So I think we're going to wrap this up.
We'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Ciao.
This is the concierge, sir.
I knew it was you. I could smell you getting off the elevator. You was here last night, too, wasn't you?
Yes, sir. I was.
You was here, and you was smooching with my brother.
I'm afraid you're mistaken, sir.
Don't give me that. You've been smooching with everybody. Snuffy, Al, Leo, Little Mo with the gimpy leg, Cheeks, Boney Bob, Cliff.
No. It's a lie.
I could go on forever, baby.
I'm terribly sorry, sir, but I'm afraid you're mistaken. We're looking for a young man.
All right. I believe you. But my Tommy gun don't. Get down on your knees and tell me you love me.
On your knees? I love you.
You gotta do better than that.
I love you.
Maybe I'm off my hinges, but I believe you. That's why I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna give you to the count of 3 to get your lousy, lying, low-down, four-flushing carcass out my door. 1, 2. 3. Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. And a Happy New Year.